The Evolution of Hennepin Lyndale Commons, Past, Present, Future. This presentation was given to the Lowry Hill Neighborhood Association annual meeting in May 2014. Several people requested that it be made available to the general public, so I've created this brief overview for Streets.MN. My name is Craig Wilson, and I'm a Lowry Hill resident and the Lowry Hill Neighborhood Association Board Liaison to the Hennepin Lyndale Reconstruction Project, a project of the City of Minneapolis. I'm trained in landscape architecture and urban and regional planning, own a sustainability consulting firm, and am adjunct faculty at the College of Design at the University of Minnesota, where I teach a graduate studio in urban design. To understand the present state of the Commons, it's important to understand its past. The origin of Hennepin and Lyndale Avenues began with Native American trails that linked sacred places and trading centers, such as St. Anthony Falls shown here, with settlements, such as those once found along the shores of Lake Calhoun in modern Uptown. Eventually, these ancient trails became territorial roads as Minnesota evolved from U.S. territory to statehood. This is an early image of Hennepin Avenue. As 19th century Minneapolis grew into the affluent Gold Coast of Loring Park, the ridge to the southwest, known as the Devil's Backbone or present-day Lowry Hill, once stood on the horizon as a barrier to urban expansion. This is a view from the ridge looking across Loring Park toward the township of Minneapolis. This all changed when a real estate developer and businessman named Thomas Lowry married into a prominent Minneapolis family with vast real estate reserves. Thomas Lowry and his wife Beatrice built a large Victorian mansion, as seen in this photo, on what is now Hennepin Avenue at the site of the present-day Walker Art Center. Lowry's goal was to develop the chain of lakes in southwest Minneapolis. To this end, he engineered the removal of much of the Devil's Backbone to create what is now Lowry Hill and present-day Hennepin and Lyndale Avenues. The excess fill from the removal of the ridge filled in marshes to create the present-day Minneapolis Sculpture Garden and Parade recreational facilities. The rail car, shown in this photo, was used to take earth from the ridge to fill the once marshy lowlands to the north. Here is a photo of the excavation of the Devil's Backbone. To give you a sense of how much fill was removed from the ridge, the present-day elevation of the rooftops of the Birch Building and Belmont Apartments, across from Sebastian Joe's on Franklin Avenue, are roughly the height of the former ridge. The excavation made it not only possible to develop Lowry Hill, but to expand the Minneapolis Street Railway Company, also owned by Thomas Lowry. The streetcar expansion linked Minneapolis with new suburban-style residential developments to the southwest. As you can see from this historic map, Minneapolis' growth was once stunted by marshland and the Devil's Backbone. Once Thomas Lowry removed these obstacles and expanded the streetcar system, Minneapolis developed along a grid of subdivisions. By the end of the 19th century, the grid was firmly established. You also see how Hennepin Lyndale bisects the grid at a diagonal, eventually running into Lyndale, creating the infamous bottleneck. If you look closely, you can see how streets, such as Summit, Lincoln, and Aldrich, once connected through the Commons. As part of the City Beautiful and suburbanization movements of the period, efforts were made to create a green and beautiful Minneapolis. The City Beautiful movement was a reform philosophy of American architecture and urban planning that flourished during the 1890s and 1900s, with the intent of introducing beautification and monumental grandeur in cities, such as here at Hennepin and Lyndale. The Virginia Triangle evolved to become the intersection of Hennepin and Lyndale. In 1915, a statue commemorating Thomas Lowry was erected on the site. The movement successfully created a sense of place and order amidst the bustling corridor until the freeways came in 1967. At that time, the Thomas Lowry Monument was relocated to its present location at Smith Triangle on Hennepin and 24th Street near Temple, Israel. The Commons was once teeming with gardens and green space. This is the current site of the Walker Art Center in 1917. Monumental architecture and ample green space gave a sense of grandeur and grace to the corridor. The Commons and Virginia Triangle were once a place to be celebrated and enjoyed. This is in stark contrast to the knot of modern freeway overpasses and underpasses that replaced it. Due to geographic constraints, the Commons has always had a high concentration of traffic. The diagonal intersection created by Hennepin Avenue bisecting the grid at Lyndale caused a very confusing and dangerous intersection, which was exacerbated without traffic signals. As the automobile became increasingly popular, accidents grew along with traffic congestion. Something had to change. Freeways, a mid-century solution to congestion, tore through Minneapolis communities. This is 94 dividing Seward from Cedar Riverside heading westward toward Hennepin Lyndale. Originally, 94 was supposed to link in a circle around downtown through both southwest and northeast Minneapolis. The northeastern portion was never constructed, which caused significant stress on Hennepin Lyndale and the Lowry Tunnel by forcing nearly all traffic through the southern route. This is 35W being constructed northward toward Hennepin Lyndale. Originally, 35W was intended to run along Lyndale Avenue, but Southwest Minneapolis neighbors protested and the proposed freeway was moved eastward. This accounts for the jog in 35W between 62 to the south and the Lowry Tunnel to the north. This deviation from the original alignment down Lyndale contributes additional stress to the 35W 94 interchange and Lowry Tunnel. To accommodate 94 at Hennepin Lyndale, the government spent 5 years constructing the Lowry Tunnel between 1967 and 1972. It was an extremely complex project. For example, to keep buildings stationary, foundations along Hennepin Lyndale had to be frozen 50 feet deep. The problems of the bottleneck grew over subsequent decades as traffic and congestion steadily increased throughout the region, with the Lowry Tunnel and Commons acting as a major keystone and hub to the regional freeway system. This is the present-day Commons we are all familiar with. In 2008, MnDOT expressed interest in possibly reconfiguring the Lowry Tunnel's bottleneck issues. Lowry Hill responded by hosting a design charrette to re-envision the corridor with the American Institute of Architects and Citizens for a Loring Park community. The charrette lasted a full day with approximately 150 participants. Opportunities and constraints along the corridor were communicated and then spatialized by volunteer designers. Opportunities and constraints evolved into innovative design solutions. This design concept shows a roundabout replacing the Spaghetti Bowl freeway zone with a monumental sculptural element at its center. Design solutions were diverse and far-ranging. This concept is for artificial tree sculptures that would be fabricated with artistic scaffolding and vegetation that could provide stormwater management as well as seating for and aesthetic enhancement to the corridor. And then the Great Recession hit, and all plans were put on hold indefinitely. Fast forward to 2014 and the Hennepin Lyndale Reconstruction Project. There are several questions that have been raised about the corridor's reconstruction project by community members, such as, can Hennepin Lyndale be less of a barrier and more of an asset for our community, with a sense of place in the Commons as existed prior to 94 and the Lowry Tunnel? Can we improve safety for people walking and biking? Volunteers timed how long it takes to cross the street at Vineland and 15th, and it took nearly 5 minutes and 3 light cycles to cross the intersection obeying traffic laws. This photo is of the dangerous eastern side of the Commons, where bicycles and pedestrians have to share a very narrow and confusing sidewalk. This is particularly dangerous during rush hour and festivals. Can we add public art and green space that turns the street from ugly into an asset? Can we narrow or eliminate lanes to encourage less speeding? Can we create more green space and shorter distances to cross intersections? Can we carve out space to separate bicycles from pedestrians with dedicated bike lanes and separate sidewalks? The Reconstruction Project will be yet another historical layer in the evolution of the Commons. What we do now will have lasting implications for the next 50 years and beyond. So what happens after the completion of the Reconstruction Project? Looking far into the future, can we create a more stately Commons worthy of cosmopolitan admiration? Can we reconstruct what was once there as this before and after image depicts? Or can we envision an entirely new solution for the commons, like this roundabout? If Times Square can evolve from an area ridden with traffic and congestion to plazas and people, can't the Hennepin Lyndale Commons? Citizens for a Loring Park Community, the Minneapolis Bicycle Coalition, and Lowry Hill Neighborhood Association are organizing with area stakeholders to advocate for a future Hennepin Lyndale more accessible to people. Your support is greatly needed and welcome. Thank you.